Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. Jeff, it's WrestleWar 1992 War Games. Destroy or be destroyed. Sting's Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance. So my first question to you is, what is a squadron? Is that like a military term?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, well, let's look that up. I don't know.
We'll get into that. That's all right. Yeah, no, this it should be an exciting one. I know we would never try and top William Regal in regards to his War Game announcement, but this was long before any of that was ever a thing. And so this should just be a good one. It's a highly rated match. It's going to be a brutal match, and so it should be fun to watch. But, I'm just kind of excited. I feel like this is a little bit of a sweet spot for you and me, like this early 1990s. Like we enjoy a lot of this stuff. And so this is one, too, where I'd say, like maybe WCW wasn't getting a lot of the promotion that, long before it is and was nowadays. But yeah, I think this is just a good opportunity for us to talk about this one and, kind of see a lot of big names as well, too. So that's just exciting as well. So, before we jump into that, though, I want to make sure, as you like to say, let's plug our stuff. Yes, of course, you can always find us on social media. Don't forget at Payoff Pod, Payoff Tom, Payoff Jeff. We're out there. We love interacting with you guys. Every once in a while, we like when we get a fan. I'll get a screenshot from you of someone that messaged you. It's like, hey, what about this match or what about that match? And sometimes we have it on our list, and sometimes we don't. But make sure to get it out there. We haven't said it in a while too, but no matter where you're listening to us, make sure 5 stars. Like we always enjoy. We're gonna keep bringing these episodes to you. Boy, we're at this point 1.5 or 1 3/4 away from 200. So who would have fucking thought that? So we've come a long way. We got a long ways to go. We still got a whole lot of more matches we're going to cover. But then, of course, too, don't forget, for a long time here, as you all know, our sponsors, Manscaped.com, long-term sponsor. I personally, I think I've said it. I finally got the Weed Whacker, Tom. I haven't even talked to you about it. Loving the new one. I feel like it's a lot better, a lot faster. I have one charger for everything too now, and so that's good. And so, they redesigned it. It's just got a good feel in your hand as well too. Just like something else, we use one of their other products, like everything to feel good. So, make sure if you're using Manscaped.com, our promo code, it's just Payoff. So you're getting 20% off and free shipping. Everything you put in your cart, there might be a code already in there. Delete it. Use the Payoff code. We want to make sure you get that full discount of Payoff, 20% off, free shipping, your entire cart. Doesn't matter what you put in it. It's absolutely worth it. So as well, too, don't forget True Classic Tees. That's Payoff 25. We're giving you 25% off there. All kinds of good stuff. I know it's True Classic Tees, whatever you see on their social media, but they got T-shirts, they got pants, they got shirts, they got shorts, they got hats, they got outdoor gear, they got indoor gear, whatever you're looking for. Make sure that you're using trueclassic.com, a promo code there, Payoff25. So with that, Tom,
let's get into this. Don't steal my line.
Nope, let's get into it. I am ready to get into this one.
It's time for the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So this is a fun one. We're in Jacksonville. We're at the Jacksonville Memorial Coliseum, 6,000 people, May 17th, 1992. Gosh, 31 years ago. Tagline, destroy or be destroyed. One team will stand. One team will fall. In a match so brutal, it can only happen once a year. So it's all about this War Games match. And that we would only see, I think this was the last WrestleWar. So we never had another one. There were 4 of them total.
Correct. Yep.
Dark match, DDP and Tommy Rich defeating Bob Cook and Firebreaker Chip. Are we going to cover that match someday?
I did not add that one to the list. I apologize. So please if the fans want it, we will do it. Yes.
We start off with new tag team champions. The Freebirds are going to defeat Terry Taylor and Greg Valentine to win the WCW United States Tag Team Championships. So perhaps there were World Tag Team Championships as well. And there may even have been NWA Tag Team Champions at this time. We just, everyone loves a good prop as a title. I mean, there's just so many of these damn things. Johnny B. Bad defeats Tracy Smothers. Scotty Flamingo, better known as Raven, defeats Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Ron Simmons defeats Mr. Hughes, who was accompanied by Cactus Jack. Super Invader defeats Todd Champion. Jeff, who is Super Invader?
Good question, man.
It's Hercules.
I wouldn't have guessed that. So I would have thought maybe the Barbarian, but that's okay.
Big Josh defeats Richard Morton. Ricky Morton, but I guess going as Richard Morton at this point. That's how it's listed. Big Josh was better known to many as Matt Osborne, and at one point, Doink the Clown.
Yep.
Brian Pillman's going to retain his WCW Light Heavyweight Championship. The Steiner brothers are going to defeat Takayuki Izuku and Tatsumi Fujinami to determine the number 1 contenders for the IWGP Tag Team Championship. And then the reason we're here, we have Sting's Squadron, Sting, Wyndham, Dustin Rhodes, Ricky Steamboat, and Nikita Koloff against the Dangerous Alliance of Stunning Steve Austin, Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, and Larry Sabisco. So that is, in this match, Jeff, I mean, that might be. Oh, and by the way, the Dangerous Alliance is accompanied by Medusa and Paulie Dangerously. All 12 of them might be Hall of Famers. Pretty wild. So this will be a fun one.
If not in it, deservingly. Yeah.
And how did we get to this match? Did it make any sense, or did we just throw these 10 guys together?
So it did make a little bit of sense here. I guess you could say, just looking at the two teams here, it was like a lot of people who were at the top of the card at this point. And so from that perspective, it does make a lot of sense. And so this match, of course, WrestleWar, the War Games at WrestleWar 1992. This was May 1992, middle of the month. But we're going to go back actually just a couple months to February. It was Super Brawl 2. You had Sting actually beating Lex Luger. It was in the main event of that show to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. So Sting was at the top of the card at this point, especially for his team and kind of what he was doing. At the same show, Super Brawl, you had Dangerous Alliance member Rick Rude. He actually beat Ricky Steamboat for the U.S. Heavyweight Championship. And so you're starting to see the teams start to form here for, whether it's a big connection or a little collection. So Sting, you got Dangerous Alliance, Rick Rude. He beat, Steamboat. And so it makes sense that he ends up on Sting's team with this. You also had Barry Windham and Dustin Rhodes beating, again, Alliance members, Steve Austin and Larry Zbyszko. So in a lot of ways, it was, I say a little bit of a rematch of these individual matches from Super Brawl. And so the teams kind of made themselves at this point with the different feuds that they were having. It's a very much a can it contain them type situation. And it's really not that far fetched, I say, from some of the stuff we would see nowadays. And so, why do you have certain teams that end up in a cage together? Why do you have certain elimination chamber, like, even like a War Games? Like, you do have these various feuds, and then whether it's a faction or because they're just, they have a common enemy or common whatever it might be, it makes sense for these teams to get together. So along with this, you actually had kind of the crossover. So you had the individual feuds and then trying to get into kind of why some of this stuff happened, though. Sting was actually March after this Super Brawl. Sting kind of, cutting a promo about who his number one contender should be, who should take him on. It was actually the Dangerous Alliance that interrupted that. You had Rick Rude throwing a drink at him. And so you ended up with a brawl between Sting and the Dangerous Alliance. And so right away, it makes sense. You've got the faction go against your champ. And so your champ is going to need people that are going to be with him. As you talked about, we had a returning Nikita Koloff actually coming to rescue Sting. A Steamboat actually continued his feud with Rick Rude. And then you also had the tag teams. They were continuing their feud as well, too. And so throughout all of this, then you had Nikita Koloff, again, it was back and forth, or it didn't really show who he was going to side with, but then it was late April siding with Sting about 3 weeks prior to the show. It was an episode of Saturday Night. And so because he likes Sting as a wrestler, he wanted to be on his team. And so I actually really like the build on this one. I think it compared to some stuff we talk about, it does make a ton of sense where you've just got all the different people were all over the place, but all it really took was one kind of, interrupted promo from the Dangerous Alliance on Sting to really set up this match. But there was already some feuds or some animosity between everybody in the ring. And so to me, it doesn't really feel thrown together. Like, yes, the match, it really didn't fully come together until kind of mid-late April, so barely a month out. But the feuds themselves had been building. And so it made a ton of sense for why then that these guys would need to have this type of match. And so I really enjoy this build. I thought it was, really good. And so obviously this leads, as Tom already said, to the War Games match itself of Sting Squadron, who we will see it's Sting, Nikita Koloff, Barry Windham, Dustin Rhodes, and Ricky Steamboat against the Dangerous Alliance of Steve Austin, Rick Rude. You'll see Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, and Larry Zbyszko. And of course, Medusa will be out there as well as Paulie Dangerously as well. So just I really like this build. I think it makes a ton of sense.
It does. And I just, the names in this thing, as you're going through that, I'm like, man, this is pretty wild. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. And I'll get into after I've got the rankings for everybody. You'll be surprised by how high some of these people were. And so I think it made for that good of a show. So yeah.
Absolutely. You ready for this one?
I am, man. Let's do it.
WrestleWar 1992, Season 4, Episode 1 on Peacock. I don't know how much longer we're going to say that because it's not a given they're going to remain on Peacock.
With everything happening, contracts, I don't know when certain contracts are ending or coming up, but yeah, I think
they're negotiating them now. You have Raw, you have SmackDown, you have all this streaming stuff. Could one entity grab it all? Will Raw and SmackDown stay on their respective channels? Will it go to streaming?
Nope.
Will it have cable? There's a lot of moving pieces here. ESPN's a player because of all their stuff with the UFC. There's rumors of Warner and Discovery Warner, whatever it's called, being involved. Who the hell knows? There's a lot of people. There's not a lot of products out there that are 52 weeks a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of live TV a week. It's a valuable property. And WWE, 40% women watch it. It's an older crowd, which means perhaps a little bit more money than like an AEW fan that's younger and obviously a much smaller audience. So be interesting to see what happens.
Yep, absolutely.
WrestleWar 1992. We're at the 2 hour and 15-minute mark. Jeff, are you ready?
Let's do this.
All right, 2 hour, 15-minute mark. It's time for the payoff.
Ho! It's time for the payoff.
It reminds me of somebody like Jim Jones in Guyana leading his people into this situation. I wouldn't compare him with Vince. And it will be stunning Steve Austin and Big Barry Windham, the television champion and the former television champion. And baby, they're getting it on, and they're getting on hard and fast in the early going.
And Barry Windham was...
I think this is Ventura on the call.
Yeah, and so I want to point out too, unlike some other Wrestle Wars, like there is just 2 people in the ring. And so normally, as we're used to it nowadays, you've got all the competitors in the ring, but you've got a lot of people actually outside. You can see Sting in the background of the shot there as well too.
That's how they did the War Games. Remember, they released them every couple minutes.
Yeah, just kind of setting up the start here. Yeah, sometimes they've had everybody in there. So I would say
it's interesting they put them on the outside of the ring like that. That's kind of cool. But theoretically, if they hated each other, why wouldn't they get into a brawl outside the ring?
How are you feeling about the Austin? Rainbow lettered tights that he has on with his name on the back. Should he go back to the black trunks and the rainbow lettering? Are you a fan of that?
Man, that is a wild
setup.
It's just, Steve Austin with hair is crazy to see. Then, rainbow colored tights with Austin written on the back is pretty wild as well.
And white boots. It's just weird to see. Yeah, the
purple knee pads.
I will say,
did you see? Speaking of Austin, basically what he said about WrestleMania was, just the schedule didn't line up with this TV show. It sounds like he would have wrestled.
I think you and I read the same article. I feel like he wanted to wrestle.
I want to wrestle. I'm good. Like with, I'm good doing a match if I have the time to prepare. I want it to be like a real match. I just didn't have time to prepare, which says to me, SummerSlam, WrestleMania next year, he's getting back in the ring. There's the two. To me, there's the two money matches. There's him and Roman, but again, do you really want to see Steve Austin lose to Roman Reigns? Like, fine. I don't care if Cena loses to him, but I don't know if I want to see Austin. I don't want to see Austin lose at all. Okay, who's the other guy? Who's the other guy I'm going to say is the money match with Austin?
It'd be Cody.
Oh, I think it's Lesnar.
Well, that makes sense too. Yeah. See,
Cody, the baby face. But like this heel Brock, man. But again, how do you do it in a way where Austin doesn't get fucked up? That's the problem with Lesnar.
I don't like this goes back to big diving clothesline there from Austin. It goes back to, did Lesnar need to beat The Undertaker for, was it an incredible WrestleMania moment? Yes. And it'll live on forever. But do we need it? Did Undertaker or Brock need that? No. I feel like kind of the same way. I guess if someone's going to beat Austin, who needs it? Do you do an Austin Theory and have him, do the Legend Killer type stuff? Or do you put him, do I really want to see him in a tag match where, it's he's being protected? Maybe you do the kind of throwback and you do a KO in Austin versus, Solo and, maybe there's an Uso or a Jimmy thing going on at the time. Maybe that's how you do the Roman stuff. And then Solo takes the pin from KO or something. I don't know. But I just feel I would, of course, love to see him back in the ring. But I think that there was, especially in the lead up to Mania, I think we know now, he was having a lot more conversations and wanted it way badder than any of us realized. And so, which I think it's interesting to know now. Yeah. I will say, too, it's interesting. I don't know if you've noticed the design of the cage on this one. It's got obviously it's our typical War Games, but it's got a lot of sag in the middle at the top. It looks like the cage is kind of collapsing under itself. All right, so here we go. We got the timer on the screen now. Counting down.
This is before dudes were diving off these things.
Yes, and also it was not constructed with footholds or any of that other stuff. This is,
but I do hate that because I just hate how small the roof is too. It just feels so small.
Yeah, that's the problem. We know that injuries come from it.
If you could have gotten another few feet out of the cage top, it would have been better. Austin bleeding. Barry Windham just bit his forehead.
Bite.
There you go, bite.
That was weird. Yep.
We're due for another entrant, right?
Yep, and so we're counting down to another entrant. You got in the foreground, you got Sting kind of jawing with the Alliance as well too, kind of making it interesting here. Yep.
3, 2, 1, and now the coin toss.
And they're sending in the heavy hitter, the U.S. champion, Ravishing Rick Rude.
Rick Rude's your U.S. champion. He's coming in. Got the spray painted tights, obviously.
I like the coin flip. For those of you at home, Sting and the Alliance were kind of standing there. The referee did a coin flip pointed to the alliance, and Rick Rude then ran in. And so not necessarily the most effective way to do it ringside, but I like that. I think you can tell a story that way, as weird as it is. Yeah.
Man, Rick Rude just on fire.
He looked like he's fast. He looks great. Yep.
I gained a lot of respect for him when we watched that Warrior Cage match, man. That SummerSlam main event. I was just like, man, Rick Rude was good.
Yeah, definitely. Before his time in a lot of ways too. Like he just looks cut. Like looks really good. Austin on the middle rope now because he can't get to the top rope. Yep. So here we go. Now we're doing the quick clock at this point. So that was probably 30 seconds.
2 minutes, it feels like, huh?
90 seconds. We're right back to it. Austin has really got a crimson mask there. Like, that's interesting. Yeah, like a lot of blood. You got blood all over Wyndham's trunks as well, too. Like, that's interesting. Yeah, Oliver's body. Yep. But Austin dripping pretty good. Yikes. Looks painful. Yeah, so you bring up the point too. I guess we saw HBO and whatever it was kind of merge and is no longer HBO.
So HBO Max streaming service is now just going to be called Max,
which is dumb as it's the dumbest fucking name.
Really, really stupid. All right, so Steamboat's coming in here.
Listen to this explosion!
Oh boy, yeah, big pop for the Steamboat.
Ricky Steamboat. He caught ravishing Rick Rude when he wasn't watching.
That's capacity crowd.
I'll give it both of those guys, like Steamboat and Austin. Steamboat, Austin, Rude.
Yeah, Steamboat. Boy, crowd is going nuts. Wow.
Well, it's just WCW country, man. Jacksonville,
that's fair. Yep.
Man, they love these guys.
So I think, kind of looking at it, they're merging. Obviously, there's no wrestling content over there. Yeah, the network merged with Peacock. Eventually Peacock will buy somebody for half of $1.5 billion or whatever, like just some crazy number or something. But I guess let's try and look to the future here. Like, what do you think the landscape of streaming wrestling or what's going to be available is going to look like in 6 months to 12 months?
Well, so it's funny. I saw something the other day from Meltzer, and basically he said, oh, well, if AEW gets the same amount per hour for their TV deal, they're just going to be killing it. Meaning, hey, if they're getting, I think it was $500,000 per hour from Warner. Okay. So, if they produce 5 hours of TV, $2.5 million a week, gosh, they'll be killing it. Well, if you have to produce more TV, guess what? You need more talent. You need more TV trucks. You need more production people. They're not making money on that. I mean, Eric Bischoff ran the numbers on his podcast one time. He's like, "What do you think it costs to produce these TV shows?" Whatever the number was, it was a lot. It was even more than I would have guessed. So, they got to make a big jump. But I just think that here's what I'll say. Whatever happens from a streaming TV standpoint is whatever the networks want. Great spine buster by Arn, by the way. Everybody's coming in just on fire as they enter.
Yeah, hot as can be. Yep.
So here's what because I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm like, well, let's say that ESPN, I'm just making this up, ESPN really wants to be in business with WWE. And they say, hey, based on our NHL, NBA contracts, we have this massive void on Tuesday nights. And we're going to give you billions of dollars over the next 10 years, but we want Raw on Tuesday night. Or we want Raw on Monday night, but we want SmackDown on Tuesday nights. Then guess what? It's going to happen. So, why is SmackDown on Friday? Because that's what Fox wanted. Why is Raw on Monday? I mean, yes, it's built in, and that's just kind of what they do now. But that's what USA wants. That's why it's 3 hours. Why are all the pay-per-views streaming? Because they decided that that's what Peacock wants. If here's the thing, if ESPN does a major deal with WWE, they may say, hey, what are your biggest pay-per-views? Your 4 big pay-per-views.
Yep.
We're making millions from UFC on pay-per-view. So WrestleMania is no longer free. WrestleMania is now $100 for 2 nights. So the WWE has no say in this. I mean, sure, they can make suggestions and show data, but how we consume wrestling, free streaming, TV, pay-per-view, it's all going to be dictated by whatever the network that wins the deal wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you touched on it too. Do you think we are going to see a UFC model of pay-per-views? Let me ask you that directly too.
If the buyer wants that, and again, I don't know. My thought is WWE fans have now been conditioned, and don't forget, the network's been around. It'll be 10 years next year. So for 10 years, we haven't paid a dime for a WWE pay-per-view. I think it's really hard to put the toothpaste back in the bottle and say, hey, sorry, we're going to start charging you again for pay-per-views. I think WrestleMania, you could maybe get away with it because it's 2 nights, but again, it's going to be $100. I don't know why you would do that, but again, you got to look at the numbers and you got to say, okay, we think we can charge $100 for WrestleMania. We think that there's 500,000 idiots out there that'll pay that $100, including you and I. So that's $50 million of revenue per year over the next 10 years. That's $500 million and that's that's a conservative estimate. Because we may sell 750,000 of these. We may sell 1 million of these. We don't know how hot the product can get. We don't know how many eyes we can drive to that. So, I just don't know. But I think that, that UFC model, man, they make a lot of money off pay-per-view. A lot. Yeah. So I got to think if ESPN buys it, they're going to look really, really hard at that model. Endeavor, same thing. How does Endeavor view the pay-per-view business? I don't know. They may say, hey, WWE fans don't have as much money as UFC fans. They haven't been paying for pay-per-views for 10 years. Leave it alone. Or they may have already, my guess, I'll tell you this, Jeff, my guess is they've already made up their mind on what direction they'd like to go. Whether they want to do pay-per-views or they want to continue to be free on streaming. They're smart people. And I think that if you looked at the numbers and you knew the numbers and you knew everything that they know about where the puck is going in terms of television, my guess is they already know.
So, okay, focus on this match. We got everybody in the ring. You got Sting and Medusa on top of the cage.
Anderson using that phone like a weapon, and Medusa is going to low ground.
Medusa had dropped a 1990s brick cell phone into the cage. And so now they're, you got the Alliance. Sting is going to probably be the last man here, but the Alliance kind of dominating. Yeah, I'm with you. And I wonder, does it turn into almost like a, okay, on top, it's an add-on. So we're subscribed to Peacock. So then do you get like a Peacock Plus like ESPN, and then you get the pay-per-views for an extra $100 a year? What is that? Because that's like how ESPN Plus does it right now with some UFC. You get or maybe you get the first hour of the show, and then you got to pay for the rest of it. So then you're starting to look at different way that the cards are lined up. I don't know.
Well, and an interesting one too is the NFL. Obviously Sunday Ticket is now distributed by YouTube TV. So everyone went, maybe you'll get it for free because of YouTube TV. Well, they had their contracts with CBS, Fox, ESPN, ABC, whatever channels they're on, right? The NFL is not allowed to sell the Sunday Ticket for under
Yes.
$400. So
Yes.
they weren't even allowed to do that, even if YouTube said we want to give it away for free, or Apple or whoever won that. So they have to charge that. But you're exactly right. So I pay $70 a month for YouTube TV. Now I got to pay them $350 for the NFL. So ESPN doing the pay-per-view. So yeah, I mean, who knows? The interesting part is, in the end, Jeff, we're all going to end up spending a hell of a lot more on television than we used to.
Yeah, because I think
that's the problem. Oh, the streaming's great. For $10, I get access to everything. Shit, what are we into now? I've lost track, but I mean, I don't know. I'm probably paying $150 a month for television. I got YouTube TV, I got Netflix, I got Hulu.
Yep.
Amazon you already have, but then you have Apple TV. Now, do you need all of those? The easy thing to say is, well, no, you don't need all those. But then guess what? You tell me, Tom, you got to watch this documentary on Apple TV. It's awesome. Shit, now I got Apple Plus. Could I can't? I mean, you can get cute with this stuff, but it's just, it's so spread out. And then it's like, Peacock's getting access to real one. Now you got to have Peacock. What if WWE goes to ESPN, am I keeping Peacock? Yeah, because I watch The Office and I watch some stuff on there, and Yellowstone's on there, and or I could get Yellowstone on Discovery Plus. I mean, it's just wild, man. But again, at the end of the day, you're going to end up spending. If you're lucky and conservative, you're going to spend $100. If you buy everything, you're going to spend $200. I mean, it's wild.
Well, and I wonder too, I know like I do MLB TV, and I wonder, is it, like, I subscribe to that, but also like they do, what is it? The free game of the day. So is it going to be like all of a sudden we get Elimination Chamber for free? Like, they throw us a freebie on. So I think like the options are like that. They're just limitless, options of what they could or could not do. Oh my gosh. Dustin Rhodes is just dripping down his body and face. Oh. Yikes. Yeah.
Dustin Rhodes bleeding. I think every man in the ring is bleeding right now, Jim Ross.
Arm's got a mask there. Yep. Wow. Crazy. But yeah, I think the next, really 6 months, I don't think we'll see anything maybe this year, but getting into like 24, it's eventually here. Endeavor has to kind of step on the leash and say, hey, quit running around. This is what we're going to do. Do you have thoughts too on, I know part of the deal that came out at the end there was they weren't going to do it unless Vince remained in the role that he had remained in. Are you surprised by that? I know that there was a lot of shit online of screw Endeavor for making Vince stay around. And now we're starting to see some of the ramifications of that, of stories being changed. And, Vince is still very hands-on with creative, it feels like. And so are you surprised that was a part of the deal? I am not. It makes sense to me, but I don't know how you feel.
I mean, typically, when you purchase a company, you want the founder to stick around because of the value they bring. And, the thing with Vince, you have to understand is that, and again, this isn't just about creative and tearing up scripts. This is about everything inside the WWE universe.
Yep.
His institutional knowledge, what he brings to the table to that business, there are some massive negatives, but the positives significantly outweigh it. Now, you could say, oh, well, tell Vince not to get involved with creative. Well, his son-in-law runs it. You could tell him not to, but he's going to. So you just have to accept the good with the bad. And here's the thing. Here's what I said initially, and I'll say it again, Jeff. There were so many scenarios that were worse than what we got. We now have the organization that runs the UFC has blown up the UFC. People said, how in the hell can you spend $4 billion for the UFC? I was kind of in that camp. I was like, man, that's a hell of a lot of money. It was a bargain. It was a steal. Okay. They have grown that brand exponentially. They're going to do the same thing with the WWE. Okay. Internationally, it's going to blow up. They're going to get way better TV deals. They're going to do more cross promotion. You're not going to love seeing all the sponsorships for the matches, but they're going to generate $50 million a year in sponsorships from WrestleMania alone eventually. Okay, so what's that going to do? Well, that's going to give you money to say, hey, Steve Austin, here's $5 million. We want you to come back. Hey, Edge, can you do another match or two? You want the wrestlers to be taken care of and well compensated. Well, tens of millions of dollars in sponsorships does that. So, again, what were the alternatives? Saudi government being involved or buying the WWE outright. Yep. Disney buying it. Warner buying. I mean, what happened to WCW? AOL Time Warner merged, and they took a $300 or $400 million a year business. WCW. They're making like a $50 million profit in 1998. Okay, it was gone 3 years later. Have you ever? I mean, how many times in the history of business can you think of a company that was a $500 million a year entity that was gone within a few years?
And people don't even remember it.
It's just gone. It just poof. It just vanished. So, Disney. You know how many things Disney fucks up? You know how many things Warner fucks up? I mean, Microsoft. I mean, these companies screw up mergers and acquisitions all the time.
Yep.
Well, WWE, there's no way they'd be gone in 5 years. Mark my words. They could have completely screwed it up. So it was the best case scenario. Now, if you say, oh, but we also wanted Endeavor to tell Vince McMahon to go away, he may have not taken that deal. So I'm fine with it, man. I also think that Vince's involvement is so overblown. And it's just a handful of mid and lower card people squealing to Sean Ross Sapp and Dave Meltzer and Wade Keller. Oh, Vince is involved. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yep.
Dustin Rhodes on the top rope. They're trying to jump off the rope, bleeding like crazy. Did you see the Dusty Rhodes A&E documentary yet?
I have not yet. I'm very behind on all of those. I know that disappoints you.
Please watch that one and let me know what you think. It was out of this world, incredible. Man, it was really, really just gut-wrenching and awesome. And, oh, man, it was great.
So this too, the ring is covered in blood too at this point. They have taken the top turnbuckle off the corner. Like I say, not the pad, like the entire turnbuckle rope is like off. And so, and there you've got Zbyszko missing with the turnbuckle. We've never seen that, I don't think, ever, using the turnbuckle kind of tie, the metal tie to hit. Tried to hit Sting and miss. Zbyszko did. I can't tell who he's got locked up there. Is that Bobby Eaton, I believe? Calling for the bell at this point. Yep.
So is that a tap? Did Bobby Eaton tap out?
I believe so, yep.
The only thing tough about that is there's so much chaos that...
Dangerously, he's irate Zbyszko.
As well he should be. Zbyszko's the one that hit beautiful.
Arm in the foreground. Oh my gosh. That looks like a gigantic gash on his forehead, yep.
He had that steel ring support.
Larry Zbyszko, the cruncher, said he doesn't know. He doesn't know.
How big of a dude Rick Rude is.
Yeah.
Dangerous Alliance looks like they're falling apart.
Yeah.
There's a winning team. I said,
people
they want
want
to tell the winners from the losers.
Yeah.
Look at him.
It's out, Zbyszko. Jesus Christ. How many times is it?
All right, let's get to the aftermath.
Oh, it's time for the aftermath.
What'd you think?
I thought the ending was a little chaotic. I think we kind of you kind of lost track of what was happening at some points. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to let that kind of get be a ding on this. I thought it was very good. They're telling a story right now, even after the match. Saw some things we didn't normally see. It was brutal as hell. I obviously have to do some notes before the show, and so it was like, yeah, bloody affair. And you read that, like, nowadays you're like, okay, whatever. This was, I mean. It is a blue ring mat that has turned red. Like, that is crazy.
Okay,
yes.
So Sabisco hits his partner Eaton with the metal piece of the turnbuckle. And then I think Sting taps him out with like an armbar or something.
Yep, that's what it looks like. Yep. Crazy. So,
but it's so tough with 10 guys in the ring. It's so tough to see. And it's not like Sting's armbar was the ankle lock where it's like you're looking for it. Like,
right,
how would you have known what the hell was going on? So
I think it keeps everybody looking strong too. They got a young Eric Bischoff and Tony Schiavone here too. That's always funny. So, okay. So you actually had the Alliance kind of breaking up after this. You had Rude and Medusa kind of going their own separate ways. You had Anderson and Eaton actually kind of a little bit of a faction with Michael Hayes at this point. And so when they came back to Paulie dangerously, he fired Medusa. And so that kind of played out. So of course you had the Rude and Medusa stuff doing that. You had, and this was pre-Flying Brian Austin, and so he went on after this match to form the tag team with Brian Pillman. It was actually the end of this year, Clash of Champions. This would have been 21. That's when you had the Dangerous Alliance disbanding in full. And Paul E. Dangerously, we've all heard the story before, leaving WCW. As I put in my notes here, sounds a little extreme to me, but we know what happened after this. And so, very interesting. So we had that, but of course Sting went on to, like everybody in this one, had kind of went their own kind of separate ways and doing different things. But Sting ended up having his feuds with Vader as well too, as we know, defended the title against Vader just a little prior to this one. And so you had Wyndham dropping the title to Austin, and so some of the feuds did kind of continue and things like that. Just a lot happening. These teams, nothing, they went their separate ways, but the feuds kind of went back, which is why I appreciate the build and kind of what they did on this one. You have Steamboat and Rude actually having their culmination match. It was the Iron Man Challenge at Beach Blast, which Steamboat won. You had him beating Stunning Steve Austin for the television championship. So it's just a lot of different stuff here. Koloff feuding with Rude, and so everybody had their feuds ahead of time. We had this show, and then you really had all kinds of other feuds that were coming off of this as well too. And so I'd say really good stuff and kind of how it played out and just what we got to see. So PWI on this one, like I said, we discussed this at the start of the show. Thought it was really interesting to see some of these numbers. So we'll start with the Squadron. Sting was number 1 in 1992. You had Ricky Steamboat at 6, Barry Windham at 13, Nikita Koloff at 17, and Dustin Rhodes at 36. You got an average of 14.5 for Sting's Squadron. But then the Alliance, you had Rick Rude was number 4, Steve Austin was 10, Arn Anderson 19, Eaton 27, and Larry Zbyszko 50. So and they averaged a 22. So 14 taken out of 22, and you got 5 people in the ring. That's one of the, that's a really high kind of, rating in regards to who's in there. Meltzer did give this one 5 stars. It was the top of the match poll as well too, by a long way, in regards to what the best one was here. Just kind of a real brutal affair, like we said. And so, Tom, this is a Meltzer 5-star. What are you thinking on this one?
I did not. 5 stars is a little generous. I mean, I think in terms of a payoff score, I'll give this thing an 8. I mean, I thought it was kind of a bloodbath and a lot of fun and great talent in the ring, and the crowd was going nuts. So I really liked it. Again, I wouldn't go above that though. I thought really tough to see the finish. It's funny, we bitch about Kevin Dunn and WWE's overproduced, but because it's overproduced, you don't miss stuff. You knew what was going on. So this was a little there was things you missed, and the finish was kind of tough to see. So, anyways, I got it an 8. What about you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I actually was a 7.5. I think that it was the blood didn't overdo it for me. I think that it just feels like a better kind of thoroughfare of some of the other stuff we've seen. Like the build made a ton of sense. The match itself, they did a really good job. You protected really everybody in the match by having Zbyszko, try and hit Sting, but then missing, and Eaton is the one that kind of takes the hit. And so you kind of really keep everybody in the ring strong. And so you don't have to mess with that too much. I just feel like overall this really, they did a good job. They were hot at this point. And so it is interesting. Like a lot of the feuds that we know, I always enjoy when a lot of these things predate a lot of the crazier things or like the real highlights. Like even Austin, this was before, the Blondes. This was, long before ECW. Like there was just a lot of stuff that, War Games even itself, there hadn't been a whole lot of War Games matches. So it was really interesting to see how those played out as well too. And so I thought that was really good. So I like a lot that I really like about this. Like I said, I wish I could score it higher, but at the same time, like it was really good. I would recommend people going back and seeing this one, even though our scores may not seem like that. I do think that it was the storytelling. I've always said I like the storytelling in the ring. I thought they did a really good job with that. So, I enjoyed it.
Well, we got another good one next week that I don't remember, but I'm really looking forward to. Chris Jericho, Rob Van Dam, King of the Ring 2002. So that's it for this one. This was a fun one, man. I'm glad you found this.
198 done, 199 next week, man. Like just freaking crazy, but we're doing this.
All right. Well, we appreciate everyone listening. We'll see you next week on an all-new episode, number 199 of The Pack.